Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For this week's project, I have been asked to create a carving of a rock. Not just any rock, it's a very specific rock. So let's head upstairs to the computer and show you more about this project.
Well, here I am in my office, and I was sent some photographs. The rock formation that I need to create is called Chimney Rock in Chimney Rock State Park, North Carolina. Now here is a side view. I'm not sure which direction this is facing. Here's another slightly different angle, so showing basically the same thing, completely different light. And look how different the coloration looks. And here's the opposite side from a higher elevation. And then this is somewhere near the front from low down, and it's difficult to tell exactly where it's taken from because I can't see any of the fencing or other details on top. And also this one, I struggled to figure out which direction this was taken from as well. It's somewhere near the front. But these are the 5 photographs I have to work from. This is a very distinctive shape here, and then so is this. So those are the 2 areas that I'm going to try to make sure that I get as close as possible. Now I only have 3 days available for this project. The customer will be coming on the morning of the 4th day to pick it up. And I've been told he just wants the basic rock formation. And no details, no ground cover, and no base. That needs to be 18 inches tall. So let's head outside to the workshop and get busy.
Well, here is my block of foam, made up from 9 layers of 2-inch thick foam, giving me the 18-inch height that I need. And I left it clamped overnight with a 5-gallon bucket of paint on top. Hopefully it is set enough to stay together while I carve it. In an ideal world, I would leave it like that for a week because the glue sets very, very slowly inside the foam. But I don't have that luxury. I was only given 3 days from start to finish, and one of those days was used up yesterday with clamping that. Well, I now have all my reference photographs in the work area nailed to a piece of foam so I can see them easily. And the next thing I'm going to do is to start drawing some rough shapes on my rough block with a Sharpie. Well, I'm told it needs to be 18 inches tall with the circumference proportional, and of course it's a bit difficult to guess where the 18 inches starts. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the picture that shows it the best and figure that is 18 inches, so that needs to be about 10 or 11. So as near as I can tell from the pictures, that is about the shape of the top of it. And then over this side, in this corner, I have what I'm going to call the shoulder, this other rock formation here. Not quite sure how big that is or what it looks like on the other side, because this photograph here, there's no sign of it. It's in there somewhere behind the rock. So I think it's a relatively small part of the formation, even though in these two, of course, it's in the foreground. I've drawn 2 lines because the first one I thought was too low. I'm going to start by leaving it fairly oversized and then gradually trim down, because I can't add more on, although I can always cut more off. My 2 primary carving tools are going to be my drywall saw and my multi-tool. I will probably get other tools out later for fine detailing, but I'm going to do the main cutting with those 2. So I'm going to turn the camera off and I'm going to get to work. The block will probably look very different when you next see it. And here we see a good example of why I would like to have left it a lot longer, and what I was saying about the glue setting up very slowly. This glue is in the middle is still just as wet as when I applied it almost 24 hours ago. Hopefully there's enough tackiness to hold it in alignment while I'm carving. Well, I have done most of the rough hacking with the drywall saw. I think now it is time to get the multi-tool out and start giving it more of its distinctive shape. And I was just thinking as I was doing it, If I had a chainsaw available, that would probably have been the ideal tool for this first step. I think where I'm going to continue now is this side of the rock here, because that's the side that I have the best photographs of. If we look over here, we see we've got this overhang around the first two sides. So I think I'm going to carve that to shape now and then see where I end up. I've done some more shaping on this side of the rock. Let's go over to the photographs now. I've tried to get a reasonable rendition of those very distinctive fissures and overhangs as shown in these two photographs, along with that deep crevice in there and the overhang or the split on the shoulder. So let's go back to the model. See, there's that deep crevice and the split and those various overhangs. I'm finding it incredibly difficult to copy it cut for cut, and I think realistically if he wanted it done that way he needed to give me several days or even a week to do it. He specifically said he didn't want me to carve it out of plaster, and that would have been a lot easier because I could get it to the right shape and I could add bits as well as take them off. But here all I can do is cut bits away. He specifically said don't carve it in plaster, just carve it in foam. And usually that is code for a rough rendition, because certainly the foam carvings that I've seen are a lot less detailed than the plaster carvings I normally do. I don't think I have the lean back quite enough yet. I think I need to cut more off the bottom here, because it does lean back quite significantly here, and if we look again, mine is still nearly vertical. So I'm going to shave that a bit more and then move around to the other side of the structure. Well, I've done a little bit more carving over this side. If we move the camera down to approximately the same angle as I have in the photographs for a quick comparison, I think it's fairly close. I think it's as close as could reasonably be expected in the time that I have available. Let's head back to the photograph now. I think I've got the same basic overall shape. Let's go back one more time to the model. And of course the overhangs will look a lot more severe as they do in the photographs once I've got the rock painted. Well, I've carved the distinctive areas on the other side. If we go back to the picture, this is what I'm copying, and I think it's reasonably close. The proportions aren't quite right. This is a little bit too large and too far forward. I think I can trim it a little bit to make it closer, and I've taken too much out here unfortunately, and that's nothing I can do about that. And I don't have any pictures of the bottom part of this face, so I'm just going to make that up. The only other area that I still have a lot more work to do is on the top. If we go back to the picture here, there is a lot of surface detail up there, a lot of small rock outcrops. Well, I've now finished carving the top. I have copied the one photograph that I have as closely as I can. And yes, I could probably have done more research and found a lot more photographs, but I very much doubt the customer would have wanted to pay for that research time. So I just used what he sent me. And I'm going to call that carving stage done. Next thing I'm going to do is paint a really runny coating of plaster all over it. The goal here is just to cover up all the unrealistic texture, and specifically the parallel joints every 2 inches, because I don't think I'm going to be able to paint those out. I need to get them covered, otherwise they'll always show through. Now, since I've only got the thinnest wash of plaster on it, and the pink foam shows through in a few places, I'm not going to be able to get away with my normal preferred method of just staining it and gradually building up the colour that way. So I'm going to start by giving it an all over black, especially making sure that I get into the many deep shadows. And for that I have this apple barrel black, 50 cents at Walmart. I'm going to thin it down somewhat and then just slap it on with a 1-inch brush. Well, here it is painted all over black. As I say, I put it on fairly runny. So there'll be a few areas where the plaster wants to show through on the highlights, and that's fine because it will get covered anyway. What I need to do now, this morning I have moved everything back into my basement from the workshop. It'd be a lot more comfortable painting it in here where I can sit down at the desk instead of having to stand all the time. I've arranged my photographs behind the workpiece, and I have several different colours of paint, black, white. I bought elephant grey, which seems fairly close to the colour of the rock, and I bought 4 different browns. I couldn't find any brown oxide when I was looking, and I should have bought orange and I didn't, so I might have to run out again and get some more paint. I'm not sure if I can make what I need with what I have, but that will be fairly late in the process, so I can at least get started. I'm going to dry brush it repeatedly with different shades. So I'm going to start off with the mid-grey and give that a fairly heavy coat so that most of the detail shows up and there's very little of the black still visible. Well, I've just given the entire formation an all-over dry brush of elephant grey, and that gets it to approximately the right overall shade. If we check it against the photographs now, you can see that that is approximately the main overall colour. I know there's a lot of light brown on this side of the rock formation. I'm going to do that later. The next thing I'm going to do is get the burnt umber and put these dark brown stains in, and some over this side as well. I've put some brown stains on the relevant locations, although for some reason it doesn't show up very well on the camera. It shows up a lot better in person. Next thing I'm going to do is fill in some of the brown highlights. Now, with a light brown oxide, the nearest I could get was nutmeg brown. Don't know if you can read it, but I'm going to try that and hopefully it will work out. If not, I'll have to mix some orange in with it, which means a trip to the store. I have now added the light brown stains, or light brown highlights, whatever you want to call them. And once again, it doesn't show up as brightly on the camera as it does in person. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to accept it or go out and buy orange paint. But the next thing I need to do is give it a highlight of near white. I'm going to put just a little bit of grey and light brown paint, just like a spot of each in the white, just to give it a more cream colour, and then give it a very light dry brush all over. Well, I've done the all over cream dry brush, and I've then touched up and added to the light and dark brown stains on this side of the rock, and I think it's close enough. I'm not going to invest the time to go back out to the store and buy orange paint. I don't think the customer would want me to spend that time because it adds to his cost. I think I need to do a little bit more of the light brown dry brushing on the top because the cream has covered most of it. So I'm just going to touch it very, very lightly and call that done. Well, that wraps up this week's project. I know it's not a perfect match for the original, but I think it's close enough. If I'd been given 3 weeks and an unlimited budget, I could have made it a lot more accurate. But I was only given a 3-day window in which to complete the project, and I know the customer doesn't want to spend a lot of money. I don't need to pack it up for shipping. He's going to be here tomorrow morning to collect it. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again next week. Thanks for watching.